Hi everyone. I want to talk about 13 super specific signs that your childhood may have been extremely damaging. My name is Jerry Wise. I've been working for over 45 years with people who grew up in narcissistic, toxic, and dysfunctional families, helping them finally get the family dysfunction out of them and become the true self they were never allowed to be. So, what are these specific signs that your childhood was extremely damaging? One thing is that you smile your way through hell. And I think what I mean by that is you just smile no matter how awful things are, whatever, no matter how you're treated, no matter what goes on, you keep the smile on. And you always keep up the stiff upper lip and never make anybody uncomfortable with who you are, how you feel. And so you smile your way through hell. Another sign of growing up with a damaging childhood is serious feelings of isolation and loneliness. We have the isolation and loneliness because of what we have learned, what we have believed about ourselves, what we were programmed when we were growing up. And so that's why when we have the symptoms of isolation and loneliness, which I certainly did experience in a pretty severe way, I also realized I learned that. And that was a part of how I was to cope with myself and being and feeling isolated and lonely because of not having the support and affection and help that may have happened in a more functional family. Another sign that your childhood was extremely damaging is a lack of healthy and lasting relationships. If your relationships haven't lasted, if you don't have healthy relationships, probably there is damage that went on when you were growing up. And a lot of people come to me and say, I don't have friends. I don't know how to make friends. I don't know how to get a relationship. I don't know how to have a husband or a wife, or I've had 2 bad marriages and it's never going to work out. I understand it can feel that way. It can seem that way. And I understand how painful that can be. However, there are ways in which we can unearth the problems that are underneath the isolation and loneliness and create a better environment for you and a much more open, possible forward motion with friends, romantic relationships, etc. And if we take a look back, we can do some expelling of that programming. We can do some healing of the trauma, which will help us to have different relationships today. Another sign that your childhood may have been extremely damaging is being startled by even the smallest noise. That's certainly a PTSD symptom. You know, we're just startled by everything, and it's very difficult. I realize there are some people that have a heightened sense of hearing, senses, but I'm not really talking about those. I'm talking about those whom have become much more ready to be startled because of their childhood abuse, because of childhood intimidation, bullying, fear, and being terrorized. And many children are terrorized growing up. And that's all legal these days, unfortunately, because we do protect parenting, which I understand. We do need to protect the relationship between a parent and child. But hopefully we will grow into some more mature understandings of what it means to protect in our society children from very unhealthy parents. Another sign that you grew up with a childhood that was extremely damaging is changing your behavior when someone enters the room. Your inner dialogue shifts. Your mental state shifts. Your behavior may shift. Someone enters the room and you shift. That may be a sign that you had damaging experiences growing up as a child. Another example of a specific sign that your childhood was extremely damaging is feeling guilt and shame in completely normal situations. And I remember that, like, even with bosses, which is kind of a professional relationship, kind of a normal societal relationship. And when the boss says, well, I wish I would have liked you to have seen you done better in the last 6 months. I think you've maybe made a dip in your productivity. And then you feel waves of shame and guilt. It's their job to bring that up. It's their job to ask you about that. And it would be their job to help explore that with you. But we feel, who have had damaging childhoods, we feel the shame and guilt that comes rushing in as a result of that criticism. Even the hint of possible criticism, we can have lots of reactivity to that. Another specific sign that maybe your childhood was extremely damaging is you either overshare or share nothing at all. In other words, we live in extremes, or the pendulum type of life. We overshare over here or we undershare over here. Often, if we've had a childhood that's been damaging, we overshare with people we shouldn't be oversharing with, and we undershare with people who we should be sharing with. We actually end up doing the opposite of those things because of our childhood programming and experience. Another sign that your childhood may have been extremely damaging is your friend circle is very small and you have no friends. Well, certainly, maybe you're not one to get along with people. Maybe you don't want to be around people. Okay, you can make that choice. That's fine. And there are more introverts versus extroverts. I understand that. But if you don't have any friends who really can't be in your life, then again, it may not be just your fault. It may not be you're a bad person, or you're a person who can't have friends, or maybe you feel you're a person that's unworthy of having friends. But probably there's some childhood issues and trauma that are behind that. Another sign that your childhood may have been extremely damaging is having struggles with authority, either needing too much of it or rebelling against it. In other words, we don't have a healthy relationship with authority. It's usually an unhealthy relationship. We resent it, we hate it, we fight against it, or we comply, submit, and do not think when it comes to authority of others over us. And that can be a sign that our childhood had some damaging things going on there. Another specific kind of sign is seeing a parent-child relationship and wishing it was you. Fantasizing about, I wish I could have been like Chris's parents. I wish I could have had a family who treated me like that. I wish, or you see others, mother and child, in the grocery store, and you go, oh, that would have been so wonderful. You may have had a damaging childhood. Another specific sign that you may have had a damaging childhood is becoming childlike around your parents. That we immediately go into regression when we're there. We go for Christmas dinner and we fall into our childhood roles. And you're expected to be the role that your family or parents have defined for you. And you may also feel very childlike when you're around them. And so that leads you to accept some of the inappropriate parenting they may want to do with you as an adult. Parenting ends at 18. I didn't say people stopped having parents at 18, but parenting ends. In other words, you're not going to put me in the corner. Certainly, parents can provide some wisdom, some experience, some advice, some support, some financial help. All those things are appropriate even after 18. But parenting is another matter. And if that's happening, then you probably had a damaging childhood. Another sign that your childhood was extremely damaging is that you're struggling to understand who you really are, what you really think, how you really feel. The reason why that can be a sign is that if we don't have that sense of self, then probably we did not get a good beginning of being our own selves growing up. And there may have been trauma, abuse, dysfunction, toxicity, narcissistic parents, could be any number of things that would have suppressed knowing who you really are, what you really think, what you really want, what are your preferences, all of those things. So we may want to look at maybe my childhood may have had some damaging things going on in that, and we may want to get some help for that. I would strongly recommend that if a number of these items you find yourself experiencing, I would get some coaching or some therapy. I would also recommend that you join the free training that I have, Build the True Self You Were Never Allowed to Have, that's mentioned down below. Absolutely free, 84 minutes. I want to just give it away to you and to help you begin on a journey of healthy self-differentiation. Please subscribe, like, comment on this video. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day and be wise.